I built an entire army of real estate AI content agents in n8n that's about to completely change how you create content. What I'm going to show you in today's video is a complete system of AI agents that create personalized content across Instagram, X, and LinkedIn, all in your exact voice and style. This is like hiring a specialized social media team that works 24/7 to collaborate with you to make content creation so much easier. And while everyone else is spending hours creating content and losing their consistency, all you have to do is send one quick message to your AI army, and within minutes you've got researched, personalized posts ready to go live. The system even generates custom image prompts that match exactly what your post needs. And it's not unreasonable to spend 8 hours a week creating content and ideas, but now you could cut that down to maybe 30 minutes total. That's a minimum of 7 hours every week that you get back to close deals and build relationships. So no more Sunday nights stressed about content, and no more generic, boring content that looks just like everybody else's. And it doesn't cost any extra effort. So if this sounds like something you could use, stick around and I'll walk you through how this army of AI content agents work, and then I'll show you how to build the whole thing in n8n. Alright, so as promised, let me take you through a super quick demo of how this army of AI content agents work. And if you want to stick around after that, I'll show you exactly how I put this together. And the cool thing about this team right here is that it actually figures out what you're trying to create. So there are a few conditions throughout this workflow that actually change depending on what you ask for. And with that, let me actually open up this chat window so that we can have our quick demo here. So let me get this started by saying, hi, let's create an Instagram post for a new listing I just got. It's a nice, cozy 3-bedroom oceanfront studio in a prime spot in Malibu. And when I went to see it, I realized how amazing this is for investors or people in short-term rentals, or even for those who want an extravagant SoCal lifestyle. Alright, so as I get this sent off, you should be able to see just how cool this agent is. It's going to classify my post, and it's going to determine that I want to create an Instagram post here. And after it finishes this workflow, it's going to create the entire post for me, not only within this little message right here. It's also going to save the entire thing to a brand new Google Sheet, which I can go into and directly take to post on my own Instagram account. So as you can see here, I did give the agent pretty specific instructions and was able to give me a pretty nice output, and it follows the exact format and voice that I told the agent to use. If we take a super quick look at this actual post content, it says Malibu Dreamin' is now a reality. Swipe for ocean views. Just snagged this incredible 3-bed beachfront beauty and I'm already picturing the possibilities. Prime location plus killer views equals ideal investment, perfect short-term rental, or your own slice of SoCal paradise. Is this your next investment or dream home? Tell me in the comments. So if we break this down a little bit, the voice this agent is using, the emojis, this group of hashtags, and even this little comment right here that says swipe for ocean views are all tailored specifically for maximizing engagement on Instagram. And they're all maximized for keeping the message as concise as possible while hitting every single important point that I just gave the agent in the message I just sent over. Now there's actually something else that this agent can do too. Right here, it was able to determine that I wanted to make an Instagram post. But if I would have said I want to make an X post, I want to make a LinkedIn post, or even if I said I want to make a LinkedIn, X, and Instagram post, the agent would be able to figure out exactly what I want, and it could create all of the content that I want just from one single message here. So in addition to being able to create content for multiple platforms, this agent can also research subjects for you directly using the internet, and it can also generate custom image prompts that are directly in line with whatever piece of content that you're requesting here. So let's go back into this agent and ask for another Instagram post, but this time I'm going to use a couple of these other features so you guys can understand just how powerful this can be. So I'm going to say, let's do an Instagram post about interest rates in Southern California. I want to talk about what the average rate is and what the market is looking like for buyers. I also would like an image of a couple getting the keys to their new home they just purchased in Los Angeles. Alright, so there are a few things going on in this prompt, and just to see if the agent can handle a couple of those curveballs, let me just get this sent out and see what the agent is able to come up with for us. Alright, so the agent processed my request, and in the message body here, it looks like we got some content. But just so that we can see things better and to make sure that it followed instructions, let me head over to my Google Doc to see what new information is there. Now let's actually check out the content of this and see how the agent did. So for our image prompt, let me read this off to you really quick. Create a photorealistic image that visualizes the concept of Southern California home ownership. The style should be bright and optimistic, perhaps showing a modern house with a for sale sign in a sunny neighborhood. Include visual elements that represent financial decisions, such as subtle graph or a set of keys to tie into the post theme of interest rates and home buying strategies. Now, I think this is a fairly high quality prompt based off of that little message I just gave the agent. Just to show you how easy all of this is, you can copy this entire prompt right here, head over to your favorite image generator. Let's just say we want to use ChatGPT, and you could paste this prompt directly into your GPT, send it off, and then have an image ready for you to go in seconds. Alright, so GPT just generated this image for me, and it's actually pretty good. Although the original agent that wrote the prompt didn't directly get the concept of having a couple in the photo, it was still able to generate me a high quality prompt that covers all of the aspects of this interest rate post in the context of buying a home in Southern California. And just for context, using GPT to generate photos like this for you will probably result in a higher quality output than a lot of other generators, especially if you're generating any text in your images like this one. Now, if we actually open up this content right here and take a look, we can actually rate this and see how the agent was able to do. So it says, keys in hand, dreams in sight. SoCal buyers, let's talk interest rates. While they've been a bit of a roller coaster, the average is hovering around 6.9%. What does this mean for you? Well, it's a mixed bag. Patience is key. With a smart strategy, your dream of owning a piece of California sun can totally become a reality. What's your biggest question about buying in this market? Drop it below. We also have all of our related hashtags. We have some emojis, and we have a very simple, straightforward presentation style for Instagram. And this video is being filmed in April of 2025, so 6.9 is pretty accurate. So I could take you through the X or the LinkedIn content, but I don't want this demo to end up being too long. And both of those agents will function very similar to this Instagram agent. So with that, let's jump straight into this build, and I'll take you step by step through how this whole system actually works. Alright, so if you guys are still sticking around, let me take you through this entire build so that you can understand how this works a little better. And by the way, if you own a business and you're curious about AI, you can click my first link down in the description and I'll send you a personalized AI action plan just for you, completely for free. If you want to work directly with me one-on-one to build a custom AI solution for your business, feel free to book in a quick call with me down below so that we can have a talk. And with that, let's get straight back into the build. So on a high level, there are 4 main things going on with this army of AI content agents. The first is that we have a classifier here to determine what type of post that you want to create. For this case, I have LinkedIn, X, and Instagram as my options, but of course you could add more if you like. Now for our actual agents, I have this separated into 3 workflows. The first being for our LinkedIn agent, the second is for our X agent, and the third is going to be for our Instagram agent. And as I said, each of these agents is going to have a very similar workflow, but there are minor differences in the actual system prompt here. So I'll take you through a couple of those towards the end of the video. But a majority of this is going to be focused on this single workflow right here, because it's going to repeat for each of these 3 agents. But before we get into any of that, let's start off with our trigger and our text classifier. So the first thing that I have to get this agent going is a on-chat message receive trigger. Now you can hook this up to your WhatsApp, you can hook it up to Telegram, or you can even hook it up to a Twilio SMS if you wanted to. This is just a default trigger that makes it really easy to test this agent and demonstrate it here on YouTube. And in case you guys don't know how to set up this trigger, all you have to do is under your triggers, you'll go down to the bottom here and choose this one that says on-chat message. Now next up is going to be the first AI component of this workflow, which is going to be our post classifier. In case you don't know what this is, it's actually its own AI system that reads every message that I send to the agent to figure out what type of content I'm going to create and where that content is going to be posted. So let's open this up and see how it works a little more. So when you first open this up, this entire section is going to be blank right here, and you're going to have to import all of these variables in. First up, we have a category that says text to classify. And this is going to be where we input the main body of information that this AI system is going to be looking through in order to categorize. Now, in order to create this variable right here, you're actually going to have to run your first node right here. If you're using the same one that I am, all you're going to have to do is come under open chat and then type pretty much anything in this window. Once you send any message through, you'll get a little check mark right here on your chat trigger. And then as soon as you connect it to your post classifier, you'll see this little window right here on the left-hand side that has 3 variables from that first node. So after you put in that text, you should be able to see the chat input here, which is the third option, contains the message that you just sent off. All you're going to need to do to input that first variable is grab your chat input, and then you're going to drag it directly into your text to classify field. You don't need to actually worry about typing in this json.chat input or knowing what that is. All you have to do is generate it from your previous node and then just drop it into that field. Next up, in order to actually instruct this AI system on how to classify your messages, you're going to want to create 3 different categories. And in my case, the reason why I created 3 is because there are 3 social media agents that I have connected to this workflow. If you had 4 agents, then you would create 4 categories. If you had 5, then you'd create 5, and so on. And this is actually very simple to create. All you have to do is come down to the bottom right here where it says add category to add a brand new category. And for each one, you're going to give it a name, which in my case is corresponding to each social media platform I'm going to create for. And then for the description, I instructed the system on what it's looking for. So this first one just says, this text expresses interest in making LinkedIn content. Now I copied and pasted this for my X, as you can see here, and for my Instagram here. All you really need to do to make this work, at least for this particular use case, is have a 1-sentence description on what the AI system is going to be categorizing your text for. And if you followed my setup right here, you shouldn't have any issues getting this to work. Now finally, you're going to come down here under options and you're going to click on this little button that says add options. Now there's going to be an option within this menu that says allow multiple classes to be true. And once you add that option, you simply toggle that to on. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow multiple of these categories to be true at the same time, as opposed to just one. So for instance, during my demo, I just created an Instagram post. But if you wanted to say, I want LinkedIn, X, and Instagram posts, then that would allow multiple classes to be true, which would pass your content through each of the 3 agents, and you would get output for each of the platforms that you asked for. So that's just a neat little feature to add on to the back end of this, but you don't really need to do that if you're only going to be creating for one platform at a time. Now, like our AI agents, this post classifier is going to be running on its own AI chat model. Now, for all of these cases, you could connect to OpenAI or to Anthropic or whatever AI model that you like to use the best. For my cases, I've been using Gemini 2.0 Flash, and it's been performing very well for all of my use cases so far. So in case you don't know how to set one of these up, all you need to do is connect a credential, which is up here in this first category. And in order to do that, all you have to do is create an account with the LLM provider that you're going for, whether it be OpenAI or Google or Anthropic, and just paste in your API key right here. Now, no matter what provider you're using, these settings are going to be pretty much the same. You're just going to have a credential to connect, and then you'll have a drop down to select whatever model you're after. Now, that is pretty simple to get set up, so there's not too much to figure out in that case. Now, let's jump straight into how each of these agents are going to connect to this post classifier. So if you remember, when we created these 3 categories in this system, each one is going to be routed to a different pathway. And depending on what you label each of these here, there will be an output on the outside of this node that tells you exactly where each pathway is going to end up. From there, all you have to do is connect each end of this node to each of your content agents here. Make sure that each output is connected to the proper agent so you don't have any errors. Say, for example, if you requested LinkedIn content and you ended up generating Instagram content because you routed your agent to the wrong pathway. And this might seem like an obvious thing to say, but since all 3 of these workflows look identical, it can be a little easy to get mixed up if you're not careful. So as I said, since each of these 3 workflows are going to function in pretty much the same way, I'm going to take you through this Instagram agent workflow just so you guys can understand how each of them work. And then I'll take you through a couple of the nuances in my system prompt for my X agent and for my LinkedIn agent, just to show you how I'm customizing each of these to maximize the output for every platform. So with all of that said, let's jump straight into our Instagram agent. To get this all started, I have an AI tools agent node right here powering the entire setup. And all this node is basically, once you come into advanced AI, it's just a general AI agent. And I've named it AI Instagram agent just to keep everything organized and clean here. Now let's actually open this up so I can show you how this is set up and I can take you through the system prompt. Now, in order to get this set up, there are a couple of things to do just to make sure that this all connects from your post classifier. So when you open this agent up for the first time, it's not going to say define below here. You're going to have connected chat trigger node as your default. What you're going to want to do is click define below because we're not receiving the input directly from a chat trigger. Instead, we're using the text classifier as a middleman between this agent and the initial chat trigger so that we can classify each of these posts and route them off to the right pathways. Since this agent is getting information from the post classifier, you're going to need to define that information below. And then under the actual prompt or user message, you're going to have to run your post classifier once to generate these 3 pieces of data, just like you did when you were setting up your chat trigger node in the beginning. So for prompt, you're going to come down to the bottom, which says chat input. Just like before, you're going to just click that and drag that directly into this prompt field right here. As soon as you do that, the agent should be ready to go and you should be ready to input your system prompt now. And speaking of system prompts, let me take you through mine just so I can show you how I put this one together. Now there are a few extra categories that I've included in this agent in comparison to a lot of the other agents I've built on this channel before. And mainly those are in addition to the role and tool sections, I also have a content guidelines section, I have an example section, and I also have a notes section. And each of these are important when it comes to actually instructing the agent on how to create content in your voice. And the goal here is just to make sure that your output is as controlled and consistent as possible. So first up, let's get started with the role. So I've instructed this agent to be a witty, charming, and creative assistant who specializes in making top-tier, engaging real estate Instagram posts. You have a deep understanding of best practices for making Instagram content that drives interest, shares valuable info in a digestible format, and increases engagement, which which includes likes, comments, and follows, without being pushy or inauthentic. Your job is to draft a 50 to 120 word Instagram post based on the user's topic of choice. Aside from that, I've also instructed it to be sure to emulate the style of the post in the example below to use as a reference for your tone, style, and general approach. And while this is a style guide, you still have room for creativity. Don't make each post too similar to the example. And this just helps to establish what the agent is doing, what context it's working in, and it'll also make the rest of the sections in this prompt make a lot more sense. Now, second up, I also have a small tools section, and because I only have one tool attached to this agent, I only had to include one right here. And this tool is actually going to be the SerpAPI tool, and I instructed the agent to just use this whenever it needs to search the web. I made sure to specify that it won't always be necessary to search the web, so only do so when the user asks or when recent information is needed. So this is a pretty important step when it comes to generating your content, because sometimes you will want to do some research. And just instructing the agent that it won't always need to do research is one of those nuances that makes this whole system a lot more adaptable and a lot easier to work with a wide variety of use cases. Next up, we have the content guidelines section. And you can pause the video and actually read through all of this if you want, but in general, I've instructed it on how to approach tone with things like being witty and charming and avoiding any overly salesy language. And for content, I've instructed it to offer quick insights or tips while focusing on digestible value and on sparking interest. For structure, I've instructed it to start with a hook that delivers the core message. And to end each piece of content, I've instructed it to use an engaging question or a soft call to action. And finally, I've also told it to generate 5 to 10 relevant hashtags for discoverability. And this is obviously going to help with algorithm and visibility and anything like that. And it's just a really easy step to include here so that you don't have to worry about optimizing your post or having to come up with a list of hashtags yourself. Now, finally, I've included an example. And this is one of the most important steps in this prompt because it's going to be instructing the agent exactly how to act with a direct sample of how we as users want this content to be produced. If you're using this for yourself, you can input one of the posts that you have written yourself, and you can train the agent based off of that. And in this context, you can add anywhere between 3 and 5 examples. I've settled for 1 here just for demonstration purposes. And by the way, when you're giving an example, just make sure that the example includes all of the qualities that you're looking for in a good post, just so that you can set your agent up to succeed from the beginning. Now, finally, I have a notes section right here at the bottom, which is just designed to prevent the agent from outputting too much information at once. Now, I've just instructed it to only output your response in the form of the post content. No need to include anything else. And this just helps keep everything clean in the chat window. And if you're interacting with this agent on a chat basis, it'll keep things a lot cleaner for you because the agent won't have to explain everything that it does. It could just output the content, and then you can go directly from there to post that content and generate your image. So overall, this prompt covers pretty much everything that I needed in order to create a pretty decent quality Instagram post. And again, you can customize this however much you want. You can add several more examples in this section right here, and you can also use your content guidelines to instruct the agent on exactly what steps to follow in order to create the ideal piece of content for you. So that's about it for our system prompt here, and now we can move on to our next steps. So after you've got your connection and your system prompt set up for your first agent, you're going to come down here and connect a couple of things just to make sure that everything works here. The first is going to be your chat model, and the second is going to be your SerpAPI tool. Now again, these are both going to be very simple to set up, and I've already set up one of these in this demo already, so it's going to be exactly the same as before. All you have to do here is set up your credential and then choose whatever model you want to use. This will be the same if you're using OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever model provider that you prefer. Now second, the SerpAPI tool is also super easy to set up. Once you open it up here, the only thing that you need to do is connect your credential and it'll be good to go. The agent will be able to communicate with it and everything should be working just fine. SerpAPI is actually a free service to use. They give you 100 searches per month if you have a free account. So that's plenty for testing. And even if you have this in production and you only make a few posts per week, the free account should be able to cover you for at least a little while. Anyways, in order to set this up, all you're going to need to do is find your API key within your SerpAPI account and just paste it in this window right here, and then your credential will be entirely set up for you. So again, not much to do here, and both of these nodes that the agent is running on are going to be very easy for you to set up. Now next up is where things get a little bit more interesting. From our output with this agent, I'm going to be connecting to an if logic block. And what this is going to do is it's going to be routing the response and determining if you're asking for a post with an image prompt or not. If you are asking for an image prompt, you'll get passed off to this first pathway here. The system will generate your image prompt and then save both the prompt and the post itself to your Google Sheet. If you're not asking for an image prompt, then the system will simply save your post content directly to your sheet. Now, in order to set up this if logic, there are a couple of things that I have going on here. And now there's going to be just one main condition within this block, and let me tell you how I set that up. This condition right here is actually going to be taking our input from our original chat trigger right here. And if you've already ran that first node, then you should already have this data on the left-hand side, and you should just be able to grab your chat input and simply drag it off into this condition right here. And again, you don't need to actually type in this when chat message received and all of this JavaScript inside of this variable, as long as you have this data generated on the left-hand side already. What this is going to do is it'll analyze our original message to see if it contains the word image. All we need to do to trigger this is just ask for an image in our original prompt, and this system right here will be able to filter that request and figure out whether you do or do not want an image. Now for this center section right here, you're going to simply come over to string and then select contains. And for this third field, all you're going to have to do is manually type in image. And with that, this if logic should be set to go, and this should be able to accurately filter out any requests that you make for images. All right, so this block is going to actually have two outputs. The first is going to be true, which means that you do want an image. And for this pathway, you're going to simply add a basic LLM chain right here. And in case you're wondering where this is, you're going to come under Advanced AI here and then click Basic LLM Chain. And as you can see, this is just a simple prompt to a large language model. And it functions similar to an AI agent, but it's slightly simpler in the inputs that you give to it, and it doesn't have access to any direct tools. So again, when I set this up here, there are going to be a couple of things going on. And if you already watched how I set up my AI agent a moment ago, then this should look pretty familiar to you. Like before, you're going to simply click Define Below as opposed to Connected Chat Trigger Node. And for the prompt user message, you're going to come over here to the output from your if block, and then you're going to drag that directly into your prompt user message. And you can actually see a preview of what that content is right here in this lower line directly beneath the prompt message, just so that you can verify that you're taking the proper information. Now to actually tell this model what we're looking for, which is an image prompt, is we're going to come under here under chat messages and set up a system prompt. Now under type name or ID, you're going to select the role of system, and then you'll have access to open up this message window right here. Now this is a very simple system prompt that I've given to this step, and there's only two sections in here. First up we have task, and then second we have an actual example of an ideal image generation prompt that has all of the qualities that I'm looking for. Under task, I've just said you have been given an Instagram post. Your job is to write a brief yet detailed 2 to 4 sentence prompt to deliver to an AI image generator to create an image that is relevant to the user's post subject. If the user told you what kind of image they want, generate a specific prompt for that result. If they did not specify what kind of image they want, do your best to generate a prompt that's in line with their post content. And then I've also included a note right here which says only output your completed image prompt in the response, nothing else. Use the example below for reference on style, length, vocabulary, and approach to writing your image prompt. Now what this is basically instructing, when I inserted this variable right here, this is actually our Instagram post. Once this LLM chain receives that, it'll be able to reference this system message to generate an image prompt based off of that content. Now under our example, I've just written what I'm looking for this style of image prompting. Now of course you can customize this as much as you want in order to generate more complex prompts with more detail, and you can even include your 3 to 5 examples within this section if you want to. But for the purposes of this demo here, this entire system works just fine with one example and a simple explanation of the task that it's going to be going through. Now that's about it when it comes to this basic LLM chain, and if you do things exactly as I did here to set this up, then everything should work just fine for you. Now similar to our AI agent, this LLM chain is going to be functioning off of its own chat model. Now this is going to be set up the same way that I set up both of these models before in this AI agent and also in our classifier, and it shouldn't be too big of a deal for you to get that set up. Now finally, all of this is going to be outputted to our Google Sheet, which you saw in the demo. Now in order to complete this pathway, you're going to simply add a Google Sheets node to the end of your LLM chain. And to configure this, you're going to have to set up your credential with your Google account if you haven't done so already. And if you're interested in doing that, there are plenty of YouTube tutorials, but I don't have time to go through all of that in this video. Once you've got your credential set, you're going to set your resource to sheet within document. Operation is going to be append row because we're going to be adding a new row to our document, which is going to contain the content that the AI system has just generated. Now you're going to just choose whatever document you're working with, which in my case is just n8n real estate leads. And for sheet, my sheet is set to content because that's the particular name of this sheet right here that you see on the bottom. And finally, you're going to set your mapping mode to manual. And then under this values to send category, once again, you're going to have to run the previous nodes with some sample data. But once you do, you're going to have access to all of this information right here so you can input these variables. In order to get your image prompt, you're going to actually come over to your basic LLM chain, grab this text variable, and then click and drag that into your image prompt. Then for your final text, you're going to come to your AI Instagram agent, grab your output, put that into your final post. Now both of these variables should directly map into your Google Sheet with your image prompts landing in your image prompt category and all of your final text posts landing in your content category. And with that, this first pathway should be complete with all of the Google Sheet data being inserted whenever you request a post along with a custom image prompt. Now secondly, if you didn't want to have an image generated with your piece of content, you're going to simply be routing your false pathway down directly into a Google Sheet node. And this is going to be set up pretty much in the same way that I just instructed you on the last one. all of this information is going to be pretty much identical because we're still going to be appending a row to the same document. And when we map each column automatically, you're going to only fill in the final text post because there is going to be no image prompt here. You'll have access to all of this input data if you've ran your previous nodes before. So let me just head into my other sheet node just to show you what data I was putting in there. So the final text post field is going to be the same for both this sheet node and for the other sheet node. In both cases, you're going to simply take the output from your AI Instagram agent and then just drag that into the final text post. And again, this AI Instagram agent should also show up once you run all of these previous nodes for this workflow too. As you can see, this final text post is also the output for the AI Instagram agent. So both of those are going to be identical. All right, so that about covers our workflow for each of these content agents. And as I said, each of these are set up identical. So you can follow the same instructions to set up however many agents you want to work within this content army. But there are a couple of differences within the actual system prompts for both of these agents that I would like to take you through just to show you how you can generate content that's optimized for each of these platforms. Let me head into my X agent to actually show you how I changed the prompt to fit X's guidelines a little bit better. So obviously you're changing your sentences within your role, replacing Instagram with X. So after that, you're also going to change your word count over here to whatever length that you want to go through with this post. In this case, I just have it set to 50 to 100, just because a lot of X posts are very brief and it's often easier to keep things as concise as possible. Now I've kept everything pretty much the same here, except switched out the example just to offer a direct example of what I would be looking for in my X post. Now again, this has all of the characteristics I'm looking for, and it also has hashtags in this case. But if you want to remove the hashtags and just have the post content, you can remove this final guideline right here and also remove the hashtags from the end of your example post. But aside from that, you can customize this again to be trained on X posts that you have written so that it can follow your exact brand voice and so that you can control the exact output so that this agent can create content however you like it to. Now finally, let's take a look at our LinkedIn agent, and this is actually going to be a pretty similar setup here, and the changes are pretty much the same. And once again, you replace Instagram with LinkedIn everywhere that shows up. And then finally, you come into your example, and then you can cut and paste an example of a LinkedIn post that you have written just to train this agent on exactly what your voice is and exactly what type of content you like to produce. You can make this example as long as you want, and if you also want to train the agent further, you could input 3 to 5 examples just to control the results of this output even more. And of course, you could also remove these hashtags right here and remove this hashtag category if you don't want to have any hashtags in your post. The cool thing about these is you can always come back into your system prompt and change out your examples if you want to adopt a new style, or if you want to tweak the way that the agent is writing your content just to produce better results. And of course, you can customize any of the other categories within this prompt just to include whatever information that you think you need here. So that pretty much wraps up the entire AI content agent army here. And as you can see, there's quite a few moving parts here. Each section is really designed to keep your workflows clean while also being able to handle a lot of nuance when it comes to actually creating content and determining where you want to post it, whether or not you want to create an image with it, and whether or not you want to actually do research along with your specific post. And thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you got any value out of this, I would appreciate if you drop a like and a subscribe down below. And if you're interested in any particular AI automation for your business, you can click my first link down in the description to get a personalized AI action plan for your particular situation, and I'll send that to you completely for free. Otherwise, if you want to book a one-on-one call with me so that we can work together to build you a custom solution, you can also do that if you click my link down in the description below. So once again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know down in the comments if you have any questions about this, and I'll catch you all in the next one.